stepping into the territory of DSLR or advanced camera stage, and the Galaxy S4 Zoom definitely exudes that type of feel, for it looks like a camera. It doesn't really look like a phone, it looks more like a camera, and has that big pronounced ring that is on the front, and when you hit the button, the camera sensor pops out. So this is just like having a point and shoot, but it also has cellular capabilities. But on the other hand, the Nokia Lumia 1020 first looks like a phone, but it has a giant black sensor on the back of it, which kind of lets you know that this is what you bought this phone for, but this is more like a traditional mobile phone, and there's no ring or any kind of zoom lens that pops out from it. Both of these phones have very good imaging, but the Galaxy S4 Zoom has something very special, where it has 10 times optical zoom. That has never been seen on a mobile phone device before, and that is an incredible amount of zoom. And it really does make a difference here. And this phone looks much like a camera and feels much like a camera, so taking pictures is a breeze. And you can always shoot on auto mode, and it takes great pictures that way. But if you want a little bit more control, now you have it. You can go right into manual mode and change your white balance, your f-stop, your aperture. You have a lot of things that you can change here, and this is very nice, for most of the time you cannot do this on a normal mobile phone device. So in harsh lighting conditions or different conditions, you can get the pictures that you want. And this thing's going to give you a lot more creative modes than you would even get on your Galaxy S4. And the Galaxy S4 had tons of different modes, but even this one is pretty smart because it can give you smart mode suggest, where it'll just suggest the different modes that it thinks that you need for the best shot. The Lumia 1020 also makes it easy for you to take pictures, for it has that two-stage shutter key, and when you press that down, it will take you straight to the Nokia Pro Camera app, which was redesigned for you to be able to take better pictures. And if you just slide to the left, you will get rings of all your manual controls. So you also have manual control here of your white balance and your aperture and f-stop. And what's also awesome is this thing also has manual focus. So that's a big deal if you know what I'm talking about. So the Lumia 1020 comes with amazing build quality. This thing comes with that unibody polycarbonate plastic that is soft touch, and it feels premium in the hand. While your Galaxy S4 Zoom is more like your point and shoot, it comes with glossy white or black plastic, so fingerprint magnet, and it doesn't feel as premium as the 1020. So let's talk about software a little bit, since these are running two different platforms. The Galaxy S4 Zoom runs on Android 4.2.2 Jelly Bean on top of the newest version of TouchWiz. And this is a mid-range device, dual core with 1 GB of RAM and 8 GB of internal storage. And it does have SD card expansion though, so that's a big deal for you to take all these photographs with. And it does have a lower resolution screen, so I think that helps a ton, for it's able to push those pixels around with no problems. And the performance has been pretty good so far, and the call quality is pretty good as well. But it can be a little awkward to hold in the hand since it's a little bulky. And you can see how thick this device is. It looks more like a camera, like I stated before, than a mobile phone. The Nokia Lumia 1020, on the other hand, looks very familiar. It looks almost like a 920. And it's got the same screen. It's got a little better than 720p resolution, but it looks really nice, pretty sharp. And the touch sensitivity is great, but you're not really getting any kind of surprises with Windows Phone 8. This does have 2 GB of RAM. This is the first Lumia phone to have that, or Windows Phone to have 2 GB of RAM. But you're really not getting any surprises here, not much different. Very fluid OS, it always has been, and you can really see how much thinner this is than, your Galaxy S4 Zoom. And the polycarbonate build and just the build quality of this and the feeling of it in the hand. It's a little thicker than other cell phones out there, but man, does it exude premium quality. It's just built like a tank, and I love the way it looks in yellow. So there are the two screens head to head, and hands down the 1020 has a much better screen, and the 1020 is much easier to carry around. It's just much thinner. And they both have different design philosophies, and both of the sensors react in different ways. And I'm going to show you that in the samples later on, video and photo. Alright, so we've been dealing with LED flash most of the time on mobile devices, but they both feature Xenon Flash, and it does a little bit better job than your LED flash. And the camera grip is a must-have if you have the Nokia Lumia 1020. So let's not even wait, let's go straight into the sample photos and video. All of these photos were taken in auto mode. So here's a picture I took with the 1020 outside, and there is the same picture with the S4 zoom. But if you look at them together, I think that the Lumia 1020 has better color replication and also has a better bokeh effect. And in this picture, you can see that the Lumia 1020 is oversaturating, where the S4 zoom has a better color and shadow replication here. And if you look at them side by side, you can really tell that the 1020 was oversaturating pretty hard. But here, the 1020 takes a really beautiful picture outside. And look at the S4 zoom. It looks pretty muted out there. It was a really hot day though, and it just looks so much better on the 1020. Much better contrast. So this seems to be a theme when you're taking pictures of something green, bushes or plants or things like that. It seems like the S4 zoom has better color replication. And look at them side by side. This time the S4 zoom looks a lot better. But as soon as I say that, I take this with the 1020 here, and this looks better than the shot taken with the S4 zoom. So it's kind of inconsistent when it comes to these landscape shots. Here, the 1020 looks sharper and has better contrast. But better contrast is definitely the best way to say with the 1020, because look at these two shots. Not even close. The S4 zoom lacks a lot of contrast, but the level of detail is okay, but I just think it looks better on the 1020. What do you guys think? But look at this shot in really bright sunlight. The S4 zoom definitely did better. The greens look much more accurate, and they're both blown out, but look at how much better the green is on the S4 zoom. So here's a picture of a statue taken with the 1020, and look at the zoom here. This is pretty much the same thing, and people might go for color accuracy there, but the contrast level, it just looks much better on the 1020. But I guess it depends on personal preference, because look at this shot of the water here. It's got a bluish tint on the 1020, where the S4 zoom had a better color accuracy on that. So just take a look. You know, I guess it all depends on personal preference, but the detail of this Lumia 1020 41 megapixel PureView sensor, unbelievable. Look at that grasshopper. Incredible, even when you zoom in. But the S4 zoom also has a really high level of detail, but the color replication here, again, I just prefer these shots with the 1020. They just look better. They have a more cinematic look to them, but I guess that's personal preference. So let's move on to low light performance, and the Lumia line has always touted their low light performance, and take a look at the performance versus the S4 zoom. It is much better, so it really lives up to the hype of the low light contender here, and this is very low lighting in the condition of the restaurant, ambient lighting, and the S4 zoom doesn't do as well, and the contrast is definitely lower. The 1020 picks up the vibrant colors here, where the S4 zoom is just overexposed and it just doesn't look as good. So hands down, the low light winner is the Lumia 1020. So very good on low light performance. So Nokia touts the lossless zoom on the Lumia 1020, and you can do this while taking video, and this is a 1080p video sample, and you can see it zooms in pretty well. You don't really lose a lot of quality here with the 1020, and it's nice. It stabilizes pretty well. So it does have zoom, it just has 4x zoom. But let's check out the Galaxy S4 zoom and see how much this thing can zoom. Now this has 10x optical zoom. And look at how much more you can zoom into. Now you can see the slide, and now look at this frog. You can really see this thing now. So this has impressive zoom for a mobile phone device. This is pretty incredible, and look at the clarity of this still. So when it comes to zooming and you want to zoom in, then you definitely want to go with the S4 zoom, because this is just unprecedented right now in a mobile phone device. They both shoot 1080p video, and they do have different frame rates per second and things like that, and you can change that in the settings. But look at the 1020 video versus the S4 zoom video. I think that the 1080p video looks better on the Lumia 1020 as a whole. I mean, look at the contrast, look at the color replication. It looks good. It tends to oversaturate though, so if you don't like oversaturated video, then you might not like the 1020 video. But let's check out the zoom side by side on this. And there is a spider here in these bushes, and you're going to really be able to see that really well with the S4 zoom. Look at how much zoom there is on that, and you can see that spider without an issue. And the 1020 here, you can see it, but it's just not as big. But you know, the video is very clear on both. So I just want to show you the power of the 10x optical zoom on the Galaxy S4 zoom. So it lives up to its name. Both of these devices have optical image stabilization, but look at the Lumia 1020s on the right hand side. It makes for a much smoother video. The S4 zoom, it does pretty good on the OIS, but the 1020 definitely wins. So lastly is the pocket test, and this is a big deal. For the 1020 fits in a pocket without a problem. It does have a little bit of a camera hump, but you won't really notice the difference. But the S4 zoom, you definitely will, because even though it's a small device, it's really thick and chunky, and that camera ring sticks out, and you're gonna notice it. It's pretty bulky in the pocket. It's not that it's not doable though, because you know, you can bend your pocket or sit with it. That's not the issue, but it definitely has more bulk on the S4 zoom. So after all of this, which one is the better device? And that's a hard question to answer, because it depends on what you want. They both offer superior imaging for mobile phone devices out there. I mean, these are not perfect cameras, don't get me wrong, they do have their issues, but the 1020 seems to have more consistent shots, and for me, I prefer the shots that come off the 1020 than the S4 zoom. The 1020 is just that good. It just makes me want to take pictures of stuff that I really don't want to take pictures of. It's just a great mobile camera. But where does the S4 zoom win for me? And that is Android, because the ecosystem of Windows Phone 8 for me is just not there. It's getting better, it's improving, it's such a viable platform, and it is a great platform, but just developer support is not there, and I just enjoy Android much more. And if I was going to have to use it for a daily driver, I would pick Android all day, even though that Windows Phone 8 is very fluid, and it's a great operating system. So I'm pretty torn here, but if I had to go off of the checks, I think the hardware is better on the 1020, I think the camera is better on the 1020, and I think the screen is better on the 1020. It's just lacking Android. Nokia, please make me this phone with Android, please. But anyway, if I had to pick a winner, I'm going to go ahead and pick the Nokia Lumia 1020, because I think it's just a superior imaging mobile device that's out there. It's thinner, it's definitely more pocketable, and I'll have to give this win to the Nokia Lumia 1020. So I hope you enjoyed this thorough look and comparison of these two devices, and if you have any questions or disagree, then go ahead and sound off in the comment section